All right, Charlie, why don't you tell the good folks at home what the bottle on the bar is tonight and what we're going to be talking about?
Always with our finger on the pulse, we have this 1.5-year-old release of Thomas S. More. Let me know if you get anything.
Dead.
Chardonnay cask finished, and we're going to tell you if it's any good and what's happening with the bourbon market.
Stay tuned. Okay, Charlie, Thomas S. More. This is a bottle I've seen a million times, have never really given it a thought, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, curiosity has been like, I wonder what that is.
So this is what I remember. So number one, there's no website. If there is, the 5 minutes I spent looking for it, I couldn't find it, which means there is no website. It's from Barton 1792 Distillery. It is a line of finished bourbons. They say aged bourbon, and the claim to these is they're aged secondarily in their cognac and Chardonnay and whatever for 1 to 3 years. So it's not just a couple months of finishing, it's a year plus. I remember seeing these come out and everybody kind of went crazy for them, like, ooh, crazy. They still retail for around $80.
Okay. It's a cool looking bottle.
Yeah, it is.
Pretty bottle.
It's a pretty bottle. We'll post some pictures. It's got the Thomas S. More, story on the back. He was a bourbon guy, and stop us if you've heard this one. He was a bourbon guy in Bardstown in the 1880s, and he built an empire, and he was at the Barton Distillery, and now they're resurrecting his name. There you go.
Let me guess, he was a preacher too.
No, he wasn't.
And he was making pooch.
Just a bourbon guy. But yeah, so and this is why I picked this bottle up. Ask me how much I paid for this bottle.
How much do you pay for this bottle, Charlie?
$23.95.
$23.95.
Marked down from
for an $80 bottle.
$79.99 to $23.99 because they're not selling any of it.
Pretty good deal.
And I have seen this bottle
Maybe.
all over. Maybe. Remains to be seen, right?
Right.
I've seen this bottle all over still, and they're in the $80, and I just couldn't help but think, like, this is what is going to happen to the bourbon market.
Yep.
Is you're going to start seeing this more and more. So let's get into the bourbon, and then we'll talk kind of bourbon economy, my favorite subject.
Okay, what's the mash bill?
No idea.
What's the age?
No idea. I know it's Barton Juice.
So we know it's not age stated.
It's not age
and
stated.
it's finished for at least a year, so it's at least 5 years old.
At least, yeah. It's at least 5 years old.
Do they count the finish as... I don't think they do. So it's at least 4 years.
97.9 proof.
97.9.
What an obscure proof.
Yeah, that's odd. It's pretty dark.
Yeah,
It's finished in Chardonnay cask.
Yeah, I don't know what Chardonnay. I don't particularly like Chardonnay, but that's okay. It is dark. It does...
Can you see it?
Yeah, we're in our
kind of hard to see
Zimmerman glassware.
in this glass.
But it is dark.
It's really dark.
Oh, stick your nose in there.
It's got a nice nose.
Man,
There's no ethanol on it at all.
That has a grainy funk to it.
Yeah.
That I just love.
Yeah, there's nothing that really like comes out and smacks you in the face on the nose where you can pick anything out.
It's really surprising.
It's just really pleasant.
When you know something that's been finished in a wine barrel for 1+ years, you expect there to be some sort of wine note. I get a lot of like grain forward, like sweetness.
There's a little hint of a wine note there, but it's definitely not overpowering.
It has a great nose. I'm really excited for this one.
Cheers.
Cheers, Tommy Moore.
That's pretty interesting. It's got a really interesting mouthfeel. Like, kind of silky, kind of cool on the palate, and it kind of explodes onto your palate, and then dies off a little bit. But then the oak comes in on the end.
Yeah.
That graininess, that maltiness kind of shows up, I think, from the nose. But then you get kind of a sweetness on the back end, like a really like caramelly, candy bar-ish sweetness on the back end.
Drink your second drink and I'm going to talk.
Okay.
And let me know what your thoughts are after that. I am really surprised at how deep and dark this one is. You see Chardonnay cask, you're like, it's going to be light and kind of airy. It's pretty flavorful and it's my expectation for this was going to be like, it's going to taste like 1792 with a little fruitiness to it. That's not what it is. It's very different. I'd really be interested to know the mash bill on this. if it is just 1792, but there is a funkiness on the nose that I really love.
Yeah,
and it's almost like that sweet and sour smell. You know that you like. You know those smells. I don't know how to describe it because I'm not very good at this, but you're almost like, ugh, that doesn't smell good, but you can't stop smelling it.
Yeah.
That's what this
like
one
my
is.
armpits. Sorry, I forgot where we were for a second.
It happens.
You were saying?
I forgot. I just got a big waft of armpit.
I think it's nice.
I do too.
I think the
it's
wine
nice.
finish really comes through on the palate in a good way. And I'm getting a little bit more of like a chocolate note on the nose now.
Yeah.
And a little bit on the finish. It's got a sticky finish.
It is.
I wish we knew more about this.
Yeah, I do too. It's really unique. It's really dark. On the front, I get that kind of splash of Chardonnay now. Like that kind of like, almost like a Granny Smith apple, like just but it's fleeting. It's just a pop. And then what's left is deep, grainy, oaky.
Yeah.
But a lot of Chardonnays have some of that kind of dry oak too.
But it's a nice dryness.
It is.
It's not a like, you know.
You know what it is? It's that dryness that makes you want to drink it again. Not the dryness that you're like, oh.
Yeah.
It's that dryness like, yeah, let me have that again. Let me have that again. I really like this bottle. I really do. And I thought this was going to be like, meh, another finished product from a giant conglomerate.
I think
it's
this
really
might be a nice one. If you're someone who's not usually a neat sipper and someone who doesn't like to drink higher proof stuff, maybe this is one that you try sipping neat because it's almost like almost dessertish.
I got to tell you, the nose is just, there is something about that nose that is, I cannot wait for this bottle to open up a little bit. The other thing I'm really surprised on, that it's 97, it's under 98 proof, which again, I know that that's not low proof. For us, that kind of is.
It drinks a little higher than that, doesn't it?
Flavor-wise and nose-wise, like, I really like that. I'm wondering.
And there's a little Kentucky hug there, and the finish sticks around.
You know what I'm wondering? I'm wondering that after all that time in the Chardonnay barrels, this wasn't a lower proof when they dumped it, and there's not a lot of water in this mash bill. Or not a lot of water in this because it is very dark for 97.9 proof or whatever, and it's very flavorful. It would not surprise me at all if it was barrel proof, they would have said, I think.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
There just can't be a ton of water in there.
I agree. You talk about depth of flavor. It's got it. It's got it, Charlie.
I will tell you this: I'm a buyer at $24.
No doubt. I don't.
Well, let's ask the question.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I don't know, but if you put this in a bottle that said Angel's Envy or something else like that, and it was a special release. And you paid $80 for it.
Well,
I don't think you'd be pissed off at yourself.
You do realize that this bottle retails for $80. So that's the
what
question.
I'm saying.
Would you buy it for $80? Would you buy that for $80?
Now that I've had it,
that's the question.
Probably not, because
You've
it's
already
not
had it.
so good but we're different. We buy so much, and every time we buy something, it has to be content, right? Not every time, but mostly.
Put yourself in our viewer shoes. If you like finished bourbon and you like complex, weird stuff, I think this is a buy. I really do.
That's just as good as many of the finished bottles from better known, better respected, better.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
keep in mind too, this is 1792. Like
right.
We're not talking about Bob's Distillery in Paducah, Kentucky.
But it's not. I mean, 1792 is not exactly a premium product, other than their full proof. Which even that sometimes is questionable.
Send your hate mail to him. I like this one. I think this is
trash. I like 17.
I think this is a really, really well executed product. I think it's very good. I am really surprised because I have not had a Chardonnay finish that I like. There is always something about the Chardonnay finishes that I'm like, ugh.
I think this would be an interesting one to come back to and see if we still like it. And I think if this bottle had a different label on it, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's worth $80 all day long. So
people are still buying. So two things. First thing is, immediately after drinking this, I thought I want to make an old fashioned with this with the elevated mixers because of how deep and complex that flavor is.
Now you wouldn't need. I'd say don't use a lot of the mix though.
Well, I was gonna.
It's almost an old fashioned in a glass.
Well, I was going to say not use much of the cherry juice and maybe a little mix. And if you haven't watched our episode on elevated mixers and don't know what we're talking about, it's a pre-mixed, cold-pressed, organic, old-fashioned mix. Use the code SO into bourbon to save yourself some money. Second thing is, back to kind of the point of this, I got this in a little liquor store, not a little liquor store, it was a chain liquor store in Evansville, Indiana. And they had marked down, and I've stopped in that store probably 2 or 3 times this year, and they had marked down. She's like, the nice young lady working there said, take a look at our markdowns. If you see a tag on them, we lowered them low. And I was walking through, I was like, oh, okay, that's a pretty good discount. It's a pretty good discount. And she's like, that one we marked down a ton. $80 to $23.99.
That's a hell of a discount. I'll pick that up all day long at $23.99.
Yeah, it made me happy as a consumer, and then it also made me sad because somebody's losing money on this. But it also made me realize, like, it was this kind of epiphany moment that bourbon is going to go through, like, what it's going through now was inevitable. You know, every market, every thing in the country is going through this, whatever you want, the inflation and coming off of its highs, whether it's real estate or mortgages or home sales, on and on and on, and it goes. Bourbon was inflated to this point where if somebody slapped bourbon on slapped the label on a bottle, it was going to sell for $80. And those days are over. That's just the way it is. So as a consumer, it makes me happy because I got this bottle for $24 and now I can make old fashions out of it. But it's hard to take yourself out of it knowing that a lot of people are losing jobs.
Yeah, that is, and that's the downside of any
market correction
is people lose their jobs. You know, I'm in real estate. The market is a lot slower than it was during COVID. So a lot of people have gotten out of real estate. A lot of people have gotten out of the mortgage business.
The mortgage loan officer.
And that sucks.
We've lost a third, or if not more, from 2 years ago. And bourbon is the same thing. I drove past Green River the other day.
Which is funny because it's the inverse. The higher the mortgage rate, the more people get out of the mortgage business, right?
Correct.
So
yeah, typically.
It's kind of the inverse.
Well, it's inverse because the higher the mortgage rate,
right.
Stay tuned for our real estate podcast, higher the mortgage rate, the less houses are purchased. And that's what that is. But I was driving past Green River's bottling plant in Owensboro, coming into Owensboro, and they've got these beautiful rack houses, and they've got this beautiful mural painted on the side of it. And I just drive past, I'm like, that place is awesome. And then I remember they fired half their workforce, and it always makes me sad. But I go back to, it was just inevitable. We were living in this inflated COVID economy where everybody got into bourbon and everybody was buying everything, and the secondary market was crazy. And now we're coming back to earth. And
you and I talked about this. How many times have we talked about this? Every time we saw another distiller was building another company was building another distillery. They're expanding. They're doubling their capacity. And we both always looked at each other and was like,
who are they making it for?
What do they know that we don't?
Yeah. $25 million expansion. $1 billion.
Yeah, I just chalked it up to maybe it's the international market, because you just knew that we were at the top of the mountain. The bubble was about to burst.
Yeah,
right?
But it's
not burst. People are still paying top dollar for good bourbon. I think it's the ones in the middle that are suffering the most, right?
Well, it's always a bell curve, right? Like Buffalo Trace is going to be okay, and the small craft distillery that can control their output and what they sell for, and they just don't care if they sell anything. It's everybody in the middle that's like, our sales dipped 5%, we're going to have to fire everybody. Right. Like that's always the way. And it's tough, but it was inevitable because the other part of bourbon, and you guys can see kind of behind me, and there's just bottles everywhere. Because when we open a bottle, this bottle, I guarantee you, this bottle will still be open and have content in it a year from now. Like I will not drink this bottle in a year. And that's the biggest problem that bourbon has is when somebody buys 10 or 12 bottles, if you get into collecting bottles.
Well, and that's the problem. That's who I blame, are the collectors who buy all these bottles and they never freaking open them. Because that gives the distillers a false sense of the market, right?
Yeah. I mean,
because everyone only has so much room to store bottles.
Well, and
you can't fill your whole house up.
And I'll defend the people that open and that drink is even if you open it and you drink it and you drink half of it. I mean, think about yourself and comment in the comments on this video if you're watching this, and let us know how many open bottles of bourbon you have right now. I'd love to hear from you guys, and we'll do an Instagram and TikTok on this. I'd love to know how many open bottles of bourbon that you guys have right now, or how many open you typically keep.
And I'd love to know the ratio between the bottles that are open and the bottles that you have.
Or and if you have a collection that you don't open, because the other part of it is, even if you do buy and you open, after a while, you just have to look around and be like, I don't need that bottle. I can't afford that bottle. I don't want to afford that bottle, because when is it going to get drank? I can honestly say I have enough bourbon to last me the rest of my life. I never have to buy another bottle ever. And I probably still will. So
yeah, for them.
For you.
We wouldn't have a show.
That's right. If you want to send us bottles that you have in your collection, send it care of Someone to Bourbon, P.O. Box 222. We don't have P.O. Box.
Yeah, so let's wrap this up. Do you want to rate it?
Yeah, I'll rate it. I give this a 2.7. You know, it was just good enough. No, I will give that a solid 7.5. I think that's a really nice bottle. I'm going to backtrack. I forgot it was $80. I'm going to go 7.25.
For $23.99.
For $23.99, it's an 8.5. No, I give this a 7.25. I really do. Now, I will tell you this. If you don't like finished bourbons and you don't like a deeper, darker flavor, this is not for you. Know that going in. Yeah. But if you do like finished stuff and you like that depth of flavor and kind of going on a journey, this is definitely one to pick up.
Yeah, it's a 7.2 for me.
There you have it. Also in the comments.
We just rated this higher than the Elijah Craig 18 year.
Yeah, it's better than the Elijah Craig 18
It's much better.
Because it has, what's that word? Flavor.
Yes, flavor.
It does have flavor.
And character.
Also, if in the comments, when you're telling us how many open bottles of bourbon you have, tell us if you have had any of the other expressions and which ones we should pick up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching. Check us out. Subscribe, like, do all the things. Check us out on socials. And why don't you tell them what else to do, Charlie?
Hey, keep your wallets loose, people.
And your bungholes tight.
Good night, everybody. Stay safe in the bourbon economy. Let us know if you see any deals. We're always looking for deals. How much are you selling that pappy for, old man?
Just tonight.
Tonight, we have a nice bottle for an ungrateful co-host of Thomas S. Moore from Barton 1792 Distillery.
Are you ready?
3, 2, 1.
Are you ready?
Are you ready? You didn't like that?
I don't dislike it.
You want to do it again?
We can.
All right. You can pick which one you like. 3, 2, 1, action. No, I mean, whatever you think. I know you went to film school. Symmetry. I don't have symmetry.
Oh, well.
You want to talk about symmetry. What is off is the barrel head is not in the middle. That's what's off.
The barrel head's never in the middle.
Okay.
It never has been.
Whatever you say, Glenn.
I always try to put your head in the middle of the barrel heads because they're so off center. And one of them's higher than the other. Still, after 3 years.
3, 2, 1, action.